conversation with Kevin Walter. He is the author for Digital First, contributor in Forbes India and few other leading magazines, visionary, strategic leader, and a management consultant with 20 years of extensive experience in management consulting. He has completed his master's in design thinking from MIT, USA, completed his digital strategy marketing program from IIMB, certified SAFE program consultant, certified Scopich 5 implementer and assessor, and he holds few more industry leading certifications. Kevin has trained more than 10,000 professionals on various industries leading programs so far, and his passion for training and teaching continues to deliver the best possible value to all the participants. He is also a keynote speaker on digital transformation and leadership. He has been working as an executive partner in Gardner and currently working in a global flight forwarding company. Now I welcome Kevin George to carry on the session. Over to you, sir.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Teresa. If you can give me the permission to share the screen, I will share my content and start the session.
It's open for sharing, sir.
Okay, let me see. All right, let me know once you can see my screen.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, first of all, for this great opportunity. I want to take a cue from where IIIT Kottayam director, Professor Rajiv, left. And he actually made a very valid point of talking about percentages, right? He compared with US versus India on the professionals primarily on the IT side. Though I represent IT industry and I work in the IT industry for the last 20 years, maybe I can also add some bit of it before I step into my session on the design thinking. I think today, if you compare from IT per se, though we have progressed significantly well, we are barely $190 billion industry in India. And out of the $190 billion, we employ only around 4.3 million IT workforce, which is roughly 44 lakh of IT employees we employ across the country, right? Where we talk about a total population of 1.2 billion. And also, if you see the talent that is coming out from the institution is massive. But still, the growth on the employment per se, if you see, just 4.3 million alone. And this is where it has a massive opportunity for the country to expand into the $1 trillion economy, specifically for the IT sector as well. If we are able to scale up with the technologies, what we're talking about, the digital technologies, and if you're able to scale up the talent to attract more jobs that is getting generated out of the new change that is happening in the market, and definitely in the coming days and the coming years, from a 4.3 million, we will definitely reach that, at least the 10 million mark, and subsequently reach that $1 trillion economy. But fairly, as an industry, as well as a segment that we are operating, growth is significant, but comparatively with the developed nations, there is a long way to grow, I think, for us. One of the reasons I picked this topic, design thinking, and when I was approached, I was told that there are a lot of startups coming in. I want to put one of the questions in front of all of you. Why startups fail? And just go back and check some of the reports suggest that 7 to 8 out of 10 startups fail every year, which means 70% of the startups are failing every year. People are starting with so much passion, so much commitment, and they also have an idea that they can pursue, but still why the failure rate is so high. this is the question I want to put across to you. And while I talk through, please think through. And I want this session to be more of an interactive, as well as I like to gain some of your feedback from yourself. And since you all represent predominantly the startup ecosystem, very important to note that sometimes the ideas what we thought may not get consumed by the user or the customers that we intend to serve. We all know one of the greatest example on our today's market, or maybe I would say in the last 10-15 years, Nokia. When the Nokia boomed in the cell phone market, most of the people went beyond, and actually, Nokia was scaling heavily high, and they became the market leader. And we all know the story why Nokia failed. And in one of this acquisition with the Microsoft, right, the Nokia management, they felt very bad, and they expressed that we missed completely on understanding the customer behavior and the customer mindset, right? They didn't catch the train when it was actually riding the fast on the technological landscape. The user experience started changing. The customers were thinking something different, but the Nokia were not able to offer that point in time. And whoever is able to offer exactly what customers want, and they read the customer's mind, they were able to actually capture the market. And today we all know the story of all the companies, how they are made, and some of them are in the $1 trillion market capital because they were able to align and captivate the customer needs. Design thinking primarily talks about how you can capture the customer needs at the early stage of your process. Design thinking is an approach that actually will enable you to identify the core needs of the customer, so that when you are able to ideate and design a solution that will help to meet the customer needs. So this also ensures, it's a very important point, it ensures the startups a success, right? Sometimes you may adapt a certain set of different process that may not guarantee your success, but fairly the companies who have adapted design thinking process to derive a new solution or a new product, I think they have touched the success, and also they have scaled up. Again, another insight that I leave it to all of you is unicorn startups. Definitely, if India has to grow to be the next big boom industry on the technological landscape and be number one in the world, definitely the startup ecosystem has to play a key role. And in the last 10-15 years, we have seen a significant amount of traction on the growth of startups. And we also have seen some of the unicorns have started coming out from India. And we all know that. I think Paytm is a great example from India. And there are many more unicorns that are coming up. But if you do a comparative study with the developed nations and ours, how many unicorns are coming up and how many unicorns are actually making into that $1 billion club, or a more than a $10 billion club, very, very few that are able to make that into that particular stage of the progress. But definitely it is a great progress, and we are all looking forward to have many more unicorns from India. Definitely that will make our country a great in the technological sector, in the digital sector across the world, as well as make a number one in the world. Let me spend maybe next 20-25 minutes talking about some of the nuance of design thinking. Normally, the design thinking as a course being taught over a period of 3 months, that requires a lot of participation, a lot of exercise, a lot of analysis that need to be done, field study. But I'm trying to.
Sorry to interrupt, your slides are not moving.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I will. So, how about now?
Now it's sharing.
All right, cool. So I'll spend next maybe 20-30 minutes, primarily giving a brief about what is design thinking, the phases of design thinking, and also some case studies that is actually in the market where they have used design thinking, how they become successful, and also I give some tips how we can get started and get your design thinking path forward in your organization. And primarily, design thinking is a process that enable you to solve critical, complex problems. And remember that design thinking is a process that will start with the problem, not with the solution. We always have a tendency, if we come across a challenge, immediately, psychologically, our mindset tend to do a solution mindset, right? Okay, you come across a thing, you see some challenges on the road, suddenly someone will say that, okay, can I create an app, an application which will tell where are the pits are there, where the roads are not good, then that'll actually give back to the particular government department, so they can make corrections, right? Immediately the mindset jumps into the solution rather than actually analyzing the problem. But design thinking is a process that will sit first, make you to define the problem. What is the problem that you're trying to address? What is the problem you're trying to solve? And remember, it is not a linear process, it is a non-linear process. So even when you derive a solution at a later point in time, you have to revisit again, is that solution is addressing my core problem? So and again, it's actually focuses on addressing the real customer needs. I will step into those slides as we progress through. It will talk about how you can reach your core customers based on a problem. You have defined a problem. Now, who are the problem that need to be addressed? And where is the problem this is happening? You need to go to that particular place and understand what is the real problem the customers are facing. Through that, you will be able to identify the core needs. And that can be done in various methodologies. You can closely observe, you can have an interviews, you can have sessions, a lot of methods to identify those core customer needs. And ultimately, the design thinking, some of the key skills that require is applied creativity. You need to have that creative thinking mindset. Because when I say creative thinking mindset, there's something called as a silo mindset. Silo mindset is what I think is correct. I have experience of 20 years. So based on my experience, this is what it will work, right? That is like a more of a silo mindset, a pursuit mindset. But design thinking, that will break that silo mindset. You need to have a broad mindset. The broad mindset, you need to come up with an open-minded approach, allowing that even someone who may not that educated like you or experienced like you, but that person may give you a fantastic idea, or that person can actually throw up a great challenge in front of you, which no one has thrown up, and that can help you to solve a bigger community problem. So it allows you to have that applied mindset of creativity. You need to apply a lot of concept development process. And again, innovation is a core component, and that will help you to identify the actual needs of customer. In a nutshell, design thinking is a human-centric problem-solving approach. And it is an iterative. Iterative means that you can improvise as you progress through. So it's not like a start to finish approach. You have to revisit every phase of the process, making sure that is that the problem that you're addressing, because that will enable you to fail fast. When you fail fast, actually it saves a lot amount of your effort and time. And particularly for startups, if you know that your product is not going to work and you know it much earlier phase of your startup, that is going to save huge amount of money and effort, and you can divert your thought process into the idea that can work and bring you to success. So that's about kind of giving a very high level view about what is design thinking. And there are 5 phases of design thinking, and if you Google it out, these are the 5 phases that will come out. And I also try to capture the 5 phases, but in my other teachings, normally I use my 7 methodology approach, but for simplicity purposes, I've kept this, the 5 phase approach. The first and the foremost is empathy. The empathy is, once you empathize and go with the customer, then only you're able to understand what is the real pain of the customer, what is the real pain of the user. You sit in the boardroom, discuss among with your peers of 10, 15 people, and take their views and strategize, and you draw out a strategy path and a solution. The success may be 50% or maybe 20%, right? Always you go for a much percentage of failure. You have to go into the field. You have to go and meet those real customers, what the problem you are trying to address. Unless and until you go and meet them, you will have a different perspective. Trust me, you will have a different perspective. This is the biggest ask I give to all the startups. If you have not done that, if you are developing a product, If you have conceptualized something, ask your customers before even you conceptualize your solutions. You may have to redesign your solution because they will tell different stories and they will give you the actual features for you to develop your solution. So understanding the user need is the biggest part of the design thinking process, and that is again the empathizing with the customers. And that will also allow you to explore the problem with various set of stakeholders. The various set of stakeholders could be dynamic. You cannot categorize your problem into one set of stakeholders. You may have a lot of unbiased stakeholders or unknown stakeholders. You may not even know, okay, this particular product may be helpful to them, right? So you have to broaden your stakeholder list as part of your discussions, as part of interviews, what you do. So that will help you to explore the problem in a more diversified and a wide range of assessment. I always give the example when you are doing this one. When you hold your hand like this is you are thinking about you, yourself, your team. But when you widen your hand, right, you are able to look and approach things in a multiple dimensions because you widen your hand and you have more space. That is the design thinking empathy. You have to widen your hand so that you can see your vision in a wide angle, and you will be able to identify the user needs in a much broader approach, so that you will be able to focus on the solution effectively. And this also helps you to identify certain things that even you don't know, right? Sometimes always we feel that I'm very firm, this will work, right? Because I put all my energy and effort. I personally feel that I'm expert in this field. I know that this will work. Yeah, that may work, but they may not also work. We have situations where certain things have worked, certain things have not worked. But you have to allow yourself that, let go your ego of your own individual nature and open your mindset on receiving the feedback from the ground. Once you receive those kind of the bottom feedback from the customers and the users, then you will know that certain things even you do not know, you will be able to discover there. Certain things, even your competitors do not know, you will be able to discover. That is where you will be able to create a very competitive and individualistic product solution that can differentiate yourself in the market. Some of the tools that you can use: field work. During this pandemic, it is not possible if you have to do on a field work, but field work is a great tool that you have to visit closer to the customers. I will also give some of the case studies. I will explain to you how the field work has transformed that particular companies. Observation is a very good art. Very closely, if you observe, you'll be able to understand some of the specific needs, core needs, and the latent needs. Latent needs is something like an unknown. You do not know that they have this need, right? You may perceive that, oh, okay, if I provide this kind of a concept or a solution, that may satisfy them, that may amplify their satisfaction level. So even you're understanding the specific needs, core needs, and the latent needs. And interviews are very important. You can have some open-ended question, close-ended question. Always interviews in the design thinking is you let the consumers talk. So always you have to have an open-ended question and need analysis. And also some other method is ethnographic methods. Primarily the ethnographic methods is more of a direct observation. You can also do a lot of video recordings to their gestures, what they think, what they pursue. So you'll be able to understand about their body language. You can take some pictures around it. You can do some artifact analysis. And there are a lot of things, primarily it's about cultural setting. You need to understand the culture. Because in India itself, every state has its own culture. So if you're launching a product or a solution, you need to understand about that cultural mindset. And if you're launching a global product, then for sure you need to know about the multicultural facets of the country and the globe, right? So that then your product will be highly successful when you take a launch a success rate. So once you have empathized, which means that once you have understood the customer needs, and by this process, you might have created tons and tons of materials, a lot of artifacts, a lot of statements, a lot of recordings, a lot of written notes that have gathered. Now, the next biggest challenge is you have to confine all the user needs into a problem statement. Because remember that you have to define the problem. Defining the problem, it is the key. Sometimes, normally what happens again here, the biggest bottleneck is the people will become very judgmental, right? They might have come across a user need, and suddenly what they will define is, instead of defining a problem, they will directly dictate the solution. Solutioning will come as a byproduct. It is not at the start of the process. So defining the problem is very important. How you can synthesize and convert the user needs into the problem statement. And there are various mechanisms. Normally, when I do my large sessions, I give examples of how the problem statements are defined and how to even define a problem statement, how not to define a problem statement. And there is a lot of exercises, the participants go through. But somehow I have to just give a small snapshot. You can apply this 4Ws approach. What is the problem that you're trying to address? Very clearly, you have to carve out. So you may have collected a lot of needs. So you can, kind of categorize everything into a kind of a theme or a pattern. And who is your target user? That, for whom you're trying to solve the problem. And most important thing is, where is the problem? Which location is the problem coming from, or where is the problem present? That is very important. That will also enable you to address to that particular target group. And most importantly, you need to ask this question: why is it so important? Should I really need to address this problem, or will this problem, addressing this problem, will give me that edge, the benefit which I'm looking for? And if you are able to answer these 4 questions and categorize all your needs into these 4 baskets, then you're able to actually define what we call as a problem statement. So you can organize into the common themes. Then you will also be able to identify certain patterns that will arrive as part of this process. There are a lot of tools they use, like storyboard. Storyboard is storytelling. So you can actually start with that story, where it's starting, then connecting the dots of all that story, the head of the story. Then you'll be able to find a story that is arriving out, and that will also help you to define the problem statement. Defining personas and prioritization method. So assume once you have successfully defined the empathy and the definition of the problem, here is the most important thing, that is ideation. Ideation is allowing the sixth nerve to think wider. Right? Remember, I was talking about in empathy, you should move away, set aside all your assumptions. You may have your own thought process, you may have your own assumptions. Sometimes you may have a strong feeling that, hey, this one will not work, right? I think respectfully keep that, but don't keep that as a blocker in this process. What you need to do is, you need to, like a river flows, right, without any obstacle. Like that, the thought process, the ideation has to flow. There should not be any blocker. Whatever the ideas that coming in to address a problem, again, you have to be very careful. You have to align your problem statements, and to that problem statements, you have to ideate the solution that you are trying to address. And there is no one solution. That is where it's a very key thing. There is no one solution. You can always go for multi-solutions. When you go for multi-solutions, the probability of success of your product is, again, higher percentage. So there are certain tools that you can use, brainstorming, and there are various techniques of brainstorming. Digital sketching, very important. I think you can actually use a lot of tools. Today, there are so many digital sketching online tools are available. Time boxing, very clearly splitting the groups and boxing them and saying that you have to brainstorm and define and come with the solutions within that 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And multi-voting. Sometimes, if you don't get a consensus, you can go for the multi-voting, and whoever is voted high on the particular idea, that can be selected and gone for. And creative techniques. Prototyping. Now, you have multiple solutions you have created. Now, you don't need to develop a full product. Sometimes, some people may go wrong in developing a full functional product. That might lead a lot of time and cost. This need to be very fast. So to develop a prototype, should not spend more than a week or 2 weeks. So most preferred method of developing a prototype is using a paper model. So a lot of times people sketch in the paper itself and show that this is what the solution we are looking at, this is what the product we are looking. Sometimes if somebody is developing an application or a digital product, right, what they do is they go for the wireframes, and they will show, and there are a lot of wireframes you can use mainly on the interactive methodologies. Adobe has a lot of tools, and similar to Adobe, there are multiple technologies and tools are available. So you will not have the full functional features, but you will know that this is how the application is going to look, and this is how the features are going to flow, and this is how the end product is going to look. right? So use your time legitimately very well to define the prototype. And once you have the prototype, always ask this question yourself: does this solve your problem statement? You should connect the prototype into your defined phase. That is what I say, that every time you have to go and revisit, is this the problem statement are we going to solve? Is this the customer needs are we going to solve? Will this solve the customer needs? Sometimes what happens, when you progress through these phases, you may slip through some of the customer needs, some of the problem statements. uh, you know your individuality will come in, your passion will come in, your vision will come in there. Then trying to kind of add some add-ons, sugar coated pictures into the prototype that you're trying to do. Always remember, you have to develop the prototype which primarily aligns to the problem statement and to the user needs. Once you're able to do that, then again you have to, what you need to do is, and there are some tools, wireframe, paper design, digital interactive tools, 3D modeling software is all available for you to develop those prototypes. Once you prototype, very important and must thing is testing it out. And whom you need to test it out, you can select. There are three set of users. One is the users whom you have collected the information, whom you have interviewed, right, whom you have observed, right? All those people you can go and give it to them. Then they will tell, yeah, it is aligned to my needs, it's satisfying my need. And other set of users is completely a new user whom you have not even interviewed. That's a very interesting concept, because when you go and give this to the new set of users, then you will know that is it really helping them, and they will also give you a different insight, or they may tell that to you, this is exactly matching my need, this is amazing, go for it, right? So when you have this kind of the varied set of users, right, will help. And third set of users is someone, if there is an existing product is already available and competitors are using it, right, and you can actually approach some of the competitors users, really see that are they seeing a differentiation from the competitor product to your product, are they seeing a value to it? So when you were able to gain the insights from the tested users, the new users, and the competitor users, right, you will gain a significant amount of insights on that, and that will help you to make a judgment whether to launch this product, or you have to go back to the design room and redesign based on the new insights that you collected. Always remember, sometimes these insights, the user needs are time bound or situational or contextual, right? So you also need to understand those dynamics when you are ideating and prototyping and testing your product. And there are some digital tools which are available: User Zoom, usertesting.com, Loop Lover. These are some of the tools which you can use to test and gain the insights from your customers. All right. How I'm doing on time? Do you have more time or?
Yes, we do have.
Sure. All right. So some of the case studies, I kind of picked up only 2, 3. But there are tons of case studies. You can search in the Google, you will get it. One of the case study I want to talk through today is about the project Dhruv. Dhruv is like a North Star, right? So it's more of about that internet connectivity and providing that accessible and affordable informative content to the underprivileged people who are living in the rural area, right? It's more of actually giving internet connectivity through a set-top box, right? And you don't need to use those keyboards. Instead, you can use the remote to communicate and surf through those internet. So that Tata Trust, as part of the CSR initiative, they launched this sometime in 2017, and when they launched it, it was fairly successful. And I think they launched in the up north side of some remote place in the Rajasthan. It was quite successful, but what the problem they faced was, the usage was very low. They have anticipated that this will become a big, massive usage, but the usage was pretty low. And also, what they have perceived is there is a misperception as this set-top box, this device is more of a children's, gaming devices. And also they felt, it is more of competing with the mobile internet that is also, spreading faster into the remote rural areas. So hence, what the team thought was, maybe we should actually now focus on new things. And what they decided is, let us go to the users directly and find out what are the problems the users are facing, why there is this low usage. So I think this approach was adapted by Thinker Labs, And as per them, what they did was they went with an empathy approach. Empathizing is going and meeting the customers on the field and understanding from them what is that their pain areas, why they are not using. So they used mix of ethnographic methods. I talked about ethnographic is more of observations, videos, photos, and some artifact analysis. And also they used a participatory design with users, which means they sit with them and understand their design and explain the design and why it is not working and observe their feedback. And also they talk to a lot of the local community members and a lot of other stakeholders, right? And what they did also, they did a full-fledged cultural immersion. I talked about, right, cultural is very important because urban to rural, there is a different culture. State to state, there is a different culture. So they understand about what is their local culture, why the usage is very low. So they did a good amount of empathy study. And what they found out was, the users felt very shy because those people are not technology savvy, right? See, as an example, if we, even though we live in the urban areas, if you buy an iPhone and go and give it to your grandma, right, she will feel very uncomfortable because she may think that, oh, there's too much technology is there, too many things I need to use. A little bit of uncomfortableness there, and she will prefer the old phone of just a button to press to call or dial, right? Same thing, even for us, if suddenly somebody is coming and giving you the Tesla car, right? Even though we are driving a lot of cars, but suddenly somebody is giving a Tesla car, we will find uncomfortable because getting used to the technology will take certain time. That is what happened there. They felt a little shy because they are not technology savvy people, and they felt a little uncomfortable also talking to the call center people for any queries or any clarifications. And they also understood that particularly women felt little underconfident, oh, this is not my game of it, right? And you can understand, and we are talking about the rural areas, right? And they're very pretty anxious about using the Drew box. And they also felt that this is a technology box. If I try to do something around there, I may damage the box or I mess up the box. And I also felt that this is meant for children to play a game, right? So that is what, as a user research, they found that out. And they found a good opportunity, based on the user study, the field research, observation with using that ethnographic methods. They came up across with some good problem statements, and the statements which is again give women safe spaces to learn, not feel judged, because they were feeling judged. So to remove that thing, and the solution has to give them that space for them to learn, to use it, and empower on them to work on it. And also enable an exploration of content in a group setting to create shared learning. So there are not too many layers of settings they need to go for that. Mainly ease of operation and simplified way of getting the content access. And if something goes wrong in their tool, so they don't need to call the call center, like do it yourself kind of a troubleshooting mechanisms they have built inside the system itself, so that help the people so that they can rectify if they come across any problem. So that's one of the case study, and now I believe that this implementation is in progress and it has been spread across wide across the country. And the next couple of case studies, which will be a very interesting case study, is one I want to talk about Airbnb. Airbnb, you all know, it's like Oyo rooms in India, right? So Airbnb is the model started in US, and in sometime in the 2009, when they started, primarily they were in the early phase of the start. Their revenue wasn't great. They were clocking a revenue of only $200 per week. And Joe Kebia, he's one of the founder. What he realized in that process was, and he did a lot of research and analysis. And it's primarily the Airbnb is like, it's like a Oyo rooms, right? So if you travel somewhere, you can book online and you can find a hotel, you can go and stay there, or any home. Some people might rent their one single room to other people also. So they will also put their ad into the Airbnb platform. And it is a very cost-effective. I don't need to spend a huge amount of money. People going for conferences don't need to stay in a big 5-star hotel, huge amount of money. And it is a big help for students and as well as, some of the professionals working classes, right? So this concept was a big hit, but the company was facing a little bit of challenge on the revenue stream. So they were clocking only $200 per week. And the Joe Kebia, when he analyzed, he went into the site and he was doing some analysis, research study, and then he found out that That time they had only 40 listings. So which means if I am one of the Airbnb user, I have taken a picture of one of my room. So I used my own camera. You can remember there is a significant value addition of camera that happened in the last 10 years. So by the time I may use my mobile camera, I may take some pictures of my room and I will post it in the Airbnb, right? So, and that is how he found that, and he has seen a pattern that most of his customers, they were using in a very low pixel camera and taking some not so good pictures and posting in the website, right? And that is one of the reason, and he sensed that people were not booking rooms because the pictures was not good, and they may feel that it is like little non-clean and not comfortable, right? So that preference was not set for the people to book. So Paul Graham, who is actually the Y Combinator, is the founder of one of the Y Combinator, is in a venture capital. They invested in the Airbnb. He completely went with a non-scalable and non-technical solution. So what he did was he went into that particular place and to the places, and he met all those customers in person, and he rented a very high pixel camera, sophisticated camera. With the customer's permissions, what he did was he took some good pictures, really good pictures, and then he uploaded into the portal, right? Then he saw some traction. When people saw, because normally as a traveler, they tend to see the pictures, how it looks good, the room is clean, tidy, everything is good. Based on that, I booked, right? So that is how they started, and they could see within a week, they were able to double their revenue. And definitely, and over a period, they became $1 billion company. And because of this pandemic, a little bit of challenge, but hopefully after pandemic also they will continue to scale up, and they will scale forward. That's another example of how the design thinking, the empathy, and as well as defining the solution that has worked for companies to scale up. One other case study, the Bank of America, they have introduced a program called the Keep the Change program. This is again, is a mindset in US. So when particularly single mother or middle class family people, when they go for purchase, right, what they do is they buy something, and they try to round up those numbers. So what happened is, even if I spend say $3.89, when they make their entry into their systems, always they have an entry, right? Because they will also put some budget and they spend it. So they have a tendency to round up the number to that $4 or $3 number, right? And they were also a little stressed because they were not able to save a huge amount of money. And what Bank of America and IDEO, I'm sure I want you guys to research about IDEO. IDEO is, one of the greatest design thinking company, which was established in 1990, and we were doing phenomenal, amazing job on a lot of design thinking work across the globe. And IDEO and Bank of America, what they did was, again, this team went onto the field. They do a lot of empathetic research. They studied with the local people. They understood their real problem as well as why they are doing it. So that nuances were understood. And beautifully, what they came up with an approach is they introduced a Keep the Change program card. So whoever is bought the American Bank of America Keep the Change program card. So for example, if I have the Keep the Change program card, I go to a shop, maybe I go to Starbucks, I buy a coffee, and assume the coffee is $2.79. What will happen is that will round off, eventually that will round off to $3, right? And what happens that the remaining 21 cents, right, that will get deposited as a saving into your bank account. So you remember, right? Normally the Americans doesn't have that kind of a saving mindset like Indians. Now, eventually, more you spend, more you save. That's the kind of the concept that was created, and that was a big successful program. Nearly 12 million customers were enrolled into the program by the time, and they were able to, $2 billion worth of savings got created through that particular program. So that's again another case study, which again how the design thinking approach was used, and the kind of the ideation has approached and the solution has been carved out, and how that has helped the company as well as the consumers to scale up. Now, pretty much I am at the last slide of my session. How to get started? If you are an entrepreneur, you are running in a startup, how do you want to get started? Where is my starting point? I would say that you think through and identify what is the problem you want to solve. Define your problem. Don't think of solution. And we always call something called as a confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, the theory is, for example, if someone on the street while you're walking and the person is looking upwards, looking the sky, right? Person is looking the sky, eventually you also have a tendency to immediately look upward, even without asking the question why the person is looking upward. Right? Today in the entrepreneurship area, this is what is happening. Suddenly we see a product is successful, and we could see a similar type of product. There will be thousands of entrepreneurs lining up to develop the product. Right? So some may be successful, some may not be successful. Right? So some may vanish over a period of time, because there is always something called as a first mover of advantage. The guy who brought that new concept might have had a strong problem to solve. Right? Now, when you are copying it, you may not know that what problem you are trying to solve, but simply you are copying already a successful product. Because of your copying a successful product, you may become half successful, but you will not become the full successful. Right? So you have to think through yourself on identifying what is the problem you are trying to solve. And when you have that problem identified, then you can use the empathy tools. Please identify your target customers, consumers. Sorry. All right. Then you probably define the problem statement like I explained in the phases, and brainstorm with a group of people, and that will help you to ideate the best possible solution. Don't be judgmental at all, and don't influence with your thought process. Always be open. Entrepreneur mindset is an open mindset, right? You need to be firm on your commitment that you're driving forward, but you need to have the open mindset, because you are a risk taker, and you should have the open mindset and not being judgmental, which will help you to intake more ideas, and that will also help you to derive more solutions. Then design the product at a very high level.
Excuse me, we are running out of time, so can you quickly wind it up?
Sure, not a problem. So I'm pretty much on the last slide, right? And a couple of points. And share the solution, prototype with your users, and observation with the users is very important. Take the feedback, and if there is a feedback that mandates for redesign, do not hesitate. Go for redesign, because ultimately your product needs to be successful. And once you are fully confident and your users have shown the confidence on the product that you have developed, then you can successfully go and actually implement the product. Through this approach, definitely you can show a lot of success, as well as you can derive a big success in the market. I wish you all the best for all of you. I hope this session was fairly useful to all of you. And if you have any feedback, I'm at social media at Kewyn George. So you can reach out to me on social media. You can follow me on social media, as well as you can share your feedback through the social media, as well as in my LinkedIn platform. Thank you very much.